Welcome to the Pitting Combination Podcast. I'm KJ Pilcher alongside Dick Briggs, ready to talk a little college wrestling here on Wednesday, Penn State week for the University of Iowa. And we're getting ready for Iowa State, UNI and Iowa State on Super Bowl Sunday, which has been moved up to 1 p.m., I believe, to accommodate maybe some fans that want to catch the duel and the Super Bowl on the same day. So a lot of busy things going on. Let's jump right in it.
Yes. So
Last Friday.
for me, it'll be I'll catch the wrestling and the Super Bowl commercials.
Yeah, right.
I think how many people watch it for the commercials, right? Or for halftime or whatever. I don't know.
Well, let's jump into last week's results. Notably, Iowa going to Michigan and suffering their first loss of the season. Still gets me with Michigan at the time was like ranked 12th or 13th. That's a lineup that is much better than I think that ranking demonstrates, and they showed it. I think maybe it was a mix of Michigan wrestling well and Iowa being a little lackluster, to be honest. You know, no, we talked about it being a tough duel, but you know, do you think this is more indicative of where Iowa is at, or was this just maybe an anomaly with the results?
I've kind of been hashing it back and forth in my mind a little bit, and you're exactly right. I think Michigan's much better than their 13th ranking. Iowa, I don't know that trip to Michigan. I don't know how draining it might be for the team or whatever, and just having to do that, but not making excuses. But Michigan got out to that big start at 25, and then again at 41, and it just got the ball rolling. So there's once that got going, I'm like going, oh, this is not good. So I think you're right that it's a little bit of Michigan, it's a little bit of Iowa, and I don't think they were looking past Penn State. You can never look past Michigan to anyone.
No.
And Michigan's always formidable, and you've got to bring your best there. And Michigan certainly brought their best, and they had an inspired crowd, and the wrestlers were feeding off it and feeding the crowd. So it was a good atmosphere if you're a Michigan fan.
Yeah, and when you look at what their lineup consists of, Michael D'Agostino with the win there at 125, 2-1 and tiebreaker 1. He was ranked 12th, so you look at the rankings and think, oh, that matches favorite Iowa. However, 125 has been topsy-turvy all season, right? D'Agostino, that's an All-American type wrestler ranked 12th. It's not your prototypical number 12 guy in the country. I think he's had seasons where he's been much better than that when he was at Northwestern, and that's a tough one. You've got Ragusin, who's ranked 4th at 33. Austin Gomez has been added to the lineup at 149. He's a top 5-6 guy in the rankings that is he a Big Ten champ? Did he win a Big Ten title at Wisconsin, or was he just a finalist? I can't remember with him.
I can't remember either. I'm not sure.
So, but you understand where he's at. Will Lujan, he was ranked 12th, but he's an All-American candidate. You've got Shane Griffith, who's a former NCAA champ in the lineup. You've got Davison at heavyweight that is an All-American, 2-time All-American, maybe even. So we just rattled off five top guy. I mean, highly ranked guys. that's a good team. And then, you have a few upsets that get thrown in there. Uh, Most notably 141, Lumley with a major. Who would have saw that coming? Over Real Woods. So a lot of this was a tough duel to begin with. And like you said, once things start rolling in Michigan's favor, that tide was hard to slow down.
Right. And I'll start with my comments at 125 with D'Agostino. First of all, what a head of hair and beard. I mean, that guy looks like he should be Jeremiah Johnson era. So anyway, he's that guy's sneaky good. He's like there was a takedown in sudden victory that was not called and then was reviewed. And honestly, man, I thought it was a takedown. So Ayala kind of dodged a bullet there, and then D'Agostino ended up getting the escape and then riding out Ayala. He's a clingy type of guy, leg on, and looks like he's kind of in trouble, but he seems to come out of it, sort of a guy, and got the win on tiebreaker 2-1, and to get him started there at 41. I have some questions. First of all, Lumley got a big, huge reversal and 4-point near fall in the second period that just busted the match open. And we know that Woods is not an explosive wrestler that puts a lot of points on the board. So now he has to open up and kind of wrestle out of his comfort zone, in my opinion, and gives up some more points and end up getting beat by 14-2 score for a major. But so my big question there is, Woods was out of the lineup, if you remember, the week before, and they had Teskey in there wrestling up. And so I don't know, maybe you know something, but I don't know if he was hurt. I don't know why he was out of the lineup, if there was sickness or what the issue was. Maybe it was just weight or just needed a rest or something. I don't know. But that makes me wonder if he was 100%.
Yeah, I think the illness has kind of gone through the room a little bit. We saw it previously. Tom Brands mentioned a few lineup changes that were caused by that previously. So that's my understanding right now. And I'll just mention this about Woods. I know you mentioned that he doesn't put up a lot of points or whatever. He has. Last year, he threw up a lot of points, wrestled a lot more open. This year, started out that way, but probably about midway through December, you kind of see things kind of close up a little bit. I'm not including the Echemendia match, but he's got 4 tech falls, major decision. Now I understand that might be a little more, there might be higher expectations from him. But he just hasn't looked, I don't think he's looked like himself the last month or so, a month and a half. He has had that pension in the past. This year, just yeah, you're right. The production just hasn't been there.
Right.
In his matches, getting by, 5-2, 8-2, and not wrestling the last weekend. And I was just trying to think here. Teskey did wrestle both matches at 141 against Illinois and Northwestern, but
to be fair, he has had probably stiffer competition mid-December on, which brings those matches a little tighter.
a little.
Yeah, so but then again, I think you're right. Expectations for him, probably from his coaches, and certainly from me,
Yeah.
Comfortably in my den, is here's the number one at the time, the number one ranked guy, we expect to see some points put on the board there. And so maybe I have, expecting a little too much.
What I think 157 is a weight class there too, where you expect more from a number 2 ranked guy. I mean, this is another instance where he just let things stay so tight, so close. And I understand that Lujan is let's just say stingy wrestler too. But we've talked about this before. The habit of keeping matches close was going to bite him. It did against Minnesota, and it did again with Michigan at
Right.
157.
And that one came down to an escape, and it was like a 2 or 3 second escape because I think Franek had 4 seconds of riding time, and so Lujan had to, if I remember right, had to get out within that 4 seconds, and he did, and then got the riding of that point for the riding time, 1 or 2 seconds that he had. So, but that's again, Franek keeping it close and not going out and hunting for it. And I mean, I just can hear, we can hear Mark Ironside probably just going, "We got to put more points on the board," sort of thing.
Right.
And I'm with Mark on that, and I know that those guys are trying. I don't need to belittle them or anything, but
oh sure,
we need to up that. I think that offensive production.
Yep. I was really surprised with Kennedy and Griffith. I thought that certainly the way Kennedy had been wrestling. And I don't know, maybe that's another residual effect. Maybe they do have a bug that's going through. I know it is prevalent right now. Maybe that had something to do with it, but I know nobody talking. Tom Brands had his press conference, and there is absolutely no excuse or pointing towards anything other than the fact that they just got beat last week. So it'll be interesting to see how things kind of turn around.
Right. And I was looking at that match as well, because in my mind, Kennedy has been a rising star at 74, bumping up a weight, and then, was lower ranked wrestler, right, to begin with. And now, climbed all the way up to 8th. And then, but Shane Griffith's a different story. I mean, that's a national champion, was it 2 years ago? And, that's a quality wrestler. And even Griffith has struggled at his level. He hasn't been undefeated, I'll say. And but you get in the Michigan setting, big meet, upset bound. That probably iced it. I don't remember if that was the one that sealed the deal. But but the separation in the match is what surprised me. I mean, it was a 12-1, I think, was it? Yeah, 12-1 win, and lots of tilts on top, and it was one man and one that wants to be there, I guess. So
right. Two bright spots. Two of the bright spots. Aiden Reagan's winning his second straight match at 184. For the Hawkeyes, he won 6-5 over Joseph Walker. And then Zach Glazier remains unbeaten. He's 19-0 right now, 11-0 in duels. He had a technical fall, and that brings his total to 7 technical falls this season. He's got 4 majors and 2 pins. So 13 of those 19 victories have been bonus point victories. That's pretty impressive. And to think he was one of the guys that fans or people might have been saying, that's a weak link. We need to find a replacement for him, and he's turned out to be one of the best and most consistent producers on this team.
Right. I'm going to back up to 84 to quick comment there. That was an
Yep.
exciting match. Maybe the most exciting of the night, actually. Walker from Michigan is on top, has the legs on, and is trying to hit a guillotine and got way high, and Riggins slipped through and got the reversal there and ended up winning 6-5 in that match. It was a very exciting match. And then you're right, at 97, Glazier's a little bit like Patrick Kennedy, kind of a rising star at 97. Currently ranked 11th. Depends on what rankings you look at, I guess. He's been my favorite to watch because he is aggressive and puts points on the board and looks fun. But we're gonna find out for sure where he's at. As he's wrestling, maybe the best wrestler in America right now. So
Right.
college wrestler anyway, in Aaron Brooks. And so we're gonna find out just what the separation is between Glazier and Brooks right now, 11 and number 1. So
Yeah,
looking forward to that actually.
and I think the prevailing opinion about 197 is that Brooks is here. Then there's a clump of individuals down here, right? That you could shake up in a Yahtzee cup and roll the dice, and it would come out different. The order will come out different just about every time that you roll it. The thing that I want to see is, see how Glazier does now against Brooks and compare that to how the other wrestlers have done against Brooks, and we'll get maybe a little bit of clear focus of where he's at,
Right.
And I'm sure Zach Glazier is going in to win this match, right?
Oh yeah.
Right now, I'm thinking a win would be gravy. A hard fought. If you're a hard fought competitive match, I think is just as big, because it really maybe cements this is where you're at. You are an All-American caliber wrestler against the competition that's at 197 this year, based off how competitive you might have been. If it's a blowout, which Aaron Brooks has the ability to do that against anybody, to be honest, then you kind of wonder, okay, where is he really at right now? And the verdict's maybe still out, even though right now I think outside of maybe one or two, he can compete with just about anybody.
Right. 100% agree with you. A victory can be had in defeat. And so
Sure.
he can put himself up in the rankings with or at least in the minds of the pollsters there, so he can get a higher ranking, higher seed. I mean, he's going to have opportunities to wrestle him down the road as well at Big Tens as well.
Mm-hmm.
And if he gets blown out, I don't know that he'll lose a whole lot. Yeah, sure, a little bit, but because I think everyone gets blown out by Brooks. So yeah, that's another one where even in defeat we can have a victory there. So
looking at the matchup, it's pretty straightforward with what you're going to get from Penn State. You've got Braden Davis, Nagao, Bo Bartlett, who has now moved up to number 1 after Woods' setback at Michigan. Tyler Kasich, they removed the red shirt off him at 149, so he'll be in there against Caleb Rachi, who's getting the call at 49. Colin Schriever going again at 133 for Iowa. The only either or in Iowa's lineup has been Keeter and Bradley Hill, which I would fully expect Bradley Hill to go against Kirk Villette. To be honest with you, if you want to get a really good gauge on Keeter, Davison would have been maybe a better opportunity to wrestle a top-notch guy than throwing him in against Kirk Vallette with only 2 matches under his belt. So I expect Bradley Hill to go there. The rest of the Penn State lineup, everybody knows Haynes, Messon, Brinks, Starauchi, Bernie Truax, Brooks, Kirk Vallette. So you know what you're going to get from Penn State. There's not going to be any moving around or decisions there. I mean, that's just a straightforward lineup, and looks like Iowa's. I know 33-49 still kind of up in the air, but I think we're getting closer and closer to Shriver being the guy there. And I think right now Rachi's a little bit ahead of Voinovich, but you know, uh, whoever's in the lineup going forward before the postseason is going to have to produce, and this will be a good chance for Rachi to kind of uh, cement his place, I guess, with a good showing here.
Right. I would agree with you at 33 and 41 that Shriver and Rachi are the guys now. And Teskey and Voinovich are not far behind, and they're right there ready to go. But I don't right now, if they're throwing them in last week and this week, I think that's pretty big statement that that's probably your lineup. Sure. And I agree with you at heavyweight also that I think Hill will wrestle. I don't think Keeter will. And he hasn't had enough time to on the mat really to, unless it was absolutely necessary. I think that if the guy ends up wrestling for 4 years at Iowa, and he's given this year to prepare for it, he could be in the hunt for, a title that first year. So then who knows what after.
Sure. Okay, so over under, how many matches will Iowa win in this duel?
Honestly, it could go anywhere from 0 to 4. I don't know. I don't see Iowa State, or I don't see Iowa State. I don't see Iowa beating Penn State. I think they might win 2.
2 matches.
Yeah, I mean that, and those are going to have to be hard fought battles. That's Penn State. They're just so good up and down the line.
Sure. Yeah. Right now, looking at things, I think Iowa comes away with. I'm going to give some people benefits of the doubt here. I don't know. I'll go with 3. I'll go with 3 matches. I think you get wins at 25, 41, and 65. If Frantic hadn't kind of run into a couple losses here, I would have liked his chances against Levi Haynes, but right now I just don't see that being the case. I think 49 could be a toss-up if Rachi wrestles the way he did at the Soldier Salute. But right now, that's I have to lean towards Kasich. So, kind of going down the lineup, Davis and Ayala, who would you take?
Well, that's one of my ones that I was favoring Iowa, so I'm going to Ayala.
Okay, I agree there. Nagao and Shriver.
I was going with Nagao.
Okay. Woods and Bartlett. I'm going with Woods despite last week. If he's healthy, I think he gets a win here.
And I was going also with Woods. It was 1 versus 2, no matter what happened last week. So it's just flip flop. So let's flip flop it again after this week. So
Rachi and Kasich at 49.
Yeah, I'd love to see Rachi step it up, but I don't think he's quite there yet. So not Rachi, Kasich.
Okay, Kasich. And then at 57, you got number 1 Levi Haynes against Franick, who's right around the number 5, 6 area. in the rankings after being number 2 for a long time. What do you
Yeah,
have there?
Haynes.
I'd go Haynes. You know, I think maybe prior to the Minnesota meet, I might have said Franick, but a couple of those losses, um, yeah, not comfortable there. Then 165, I'm picking Caliendo um over Messenbrink.
And this is in case we don't win one at 25 or 41, we're going to win it here. This is my safety net to at least win 2. So to me, this one's a bit of a toss up. So since I said 2, I have to go with Penn State, but like I said, it's my fallback because I think that Caliendo can and probably will win that. So we'll see.
And we can agree, Penn State heavy favorites in the 4 heaviest weights, regardless of who goes.
Yeah.
Hirochi, Truax, Brooks, and Kirk Follett there. So that'll be Friday at 8 p.m. At Carver Hawkeye Arena. So if you're looking for something to do Friday evening, that'll be a good opportunity to see. It sounds like tickets are becoming hard to come by. So should be a full house on Friday. Um, let's move over to the Big 12. A fairly quiet weekend for Iowa State, UNI. They had West Virginia that came through town over the weekend. Um, Iowa State hosted West Virginia on Friday and won 29-11. UNI beat West Virginia 26-12 on Sunday in Cedar Falls. So two um, two pretty dominant wins for both of them. Kind of what was expected, wouldn't you say?
Well, funny you say quiet weekend. I say quiet weekend for Iowa State, number 4 ranked Iowa State to beat number 17 ranked West Virginia. Not so quiet for number 18 UNI to beat number
Okay.
17 West Virginia, particularly 26-12. So quiet for Iowa State. I think UNI has a lot to cheer. Obviously both nice wins, but 26-12, and they beat some ranked kids along the way to do it. So it was some nice victories there. On the UNI West Virginia side, particularly that stands out is Cale Happel again. How about that guy? I love that. Yep.
Happel got a big major decision over number 11 Jordan Titus at 141. I guess I just say quiet mainly because even with the rankings, I thought UNI was just a much better team than West Virginia to begin with.
And you were right.
I guess I kind of expected that, but with you mentioning, rankings wise, yeah, that's a notable victory for UNI, especially winning handily. But yeah, Cale Happel, big win over a ranked guy. Julian Farber with a technical fall at 133. That was, I think Farber is somebody just to keep an eye on as the season nears the postseason. I think he could shock some people once the conference tournament starts. Wyatt Volker and Terrell Gordon, they closed with consecutive wins, and mentioned that Volker, this is his 3rd straight conference win. He had wins at Oklahoma State and Oklahoma, and now a win against West Virginia. So, Volker is kind of having a good stretch right now, and good for Terrell Gordon, who won in overtime. Got takedown and near fall to close that out. Of course, Parker Hawkeye is in with a tech fall at 184. Kind of take that for granted at this
AJ,
point.
did you see the end of 174, Jared Sema?
I did not see that. I
Oh
did
my
not see
gosh, he was down and he was just kept after it, kept after it, kept after it, got the takedown right in front of the buzzer and ended up winning 5-4. So he beat the 17th ranked Brody Conley. So that was a big upset for him and a really nice, relentless attack at the end. That was fun.
that's awesome. And that's the kind of thing I think that's, you know, think that's what's going to help them in the postseason. That type of wrestling, that relentless style that, when you get there, sometimes, it's more heart than it is skill. Um, especially when you're getting to those matches where if you win, you get an automatic berth, or if you lose, you're on the outside looking in, and sometimes stuff like that makes a huge difference. So, um, excited to see, UNI and their approach, their attitude, the way they wrestle, um, when the postseason comes around. Because I think this is a group that's a lot better than what their dual record indicates. And I think in the postseason, um, I think there's, I think they have some big things ahead of them.
Right. And I mean, Kekai's
By
in,
big things, I mean like top 10, top 12, anywhere from a 10 to 12, 13,
right.
14 type finish,
And they want top 10 for sure.
yeah,
But Kekaizen has just been so dominant all year long. I mean, he's wrestled a lot of ranked guys, and it has not been close.
right.
Other than the All Star meet, that was kind of he took won in the with a takedown in the last in the third period. But he's been getting better and better and better. He does not sit around and wait for to try and win close matches. I just love watching that guy wrestle.
Yeah. We've said this before. I think, I think he is, um, the most entertaining wrestler that I think uh, the three Iowa teams has right now. I think David Carr is a close second. Bastida's there as well. Um, so it's fun to watch them. When it comes to Iowa, when Woods is on top of his game, he's there as well. Right now, Zach Glazier's been the most consistent when it comes to putting up a lot of points. I think Caliendo's pretty slick, and Kennedy. When he's on and he's got that brawling grinder kind of effect. Like watching him wrestle too. But I tell you right now, I think Heckeisen is the most entertaining wrestler to watch.
Right. I'm going to bump over to Iowa State side for a minute. A couple of things. First of all, Swiderski keeps impressing. He's just back last week, I think, and then he beat number 7, Waters, 7-4 in sudden victory. And then did you see who was in the lineup at 184?
Yes, Tate Nakaborn.
I think that's his first varsity. Unless I missed one somewhere.
I think so too. Couple other things that kind of stand out for Iowa State. Cody Chittum back in the lineup. He had some concussion issues, according to Kevin Dresser. That's why he didn't make the Oklahoma trip. But he's back in there, and he got a major decision at 157. Then MJ Gaitan, that's a guy that he's a big move guy, and he could stun a lot of people. And you mentioned Sema with the win over Conley, and Gaitan got a pin in 38 seconds there. So big moves from him and getting a pin there against higher ranked wrestler. So good for him, and also Evan Frost with a tech fall at 133. Um, we really should be in store for a really fun duel on Sunday.
Yeah, I agree. I haven't looked at the matchups real close, so I not if we pick them or whatever, it's gonna be right off the top of my head here.
Sure. Well, first off, UNI goes to Cal Baptist on Friday, and then turns around and comes back home and wrestles Iowa State on Sunday. Does that affect things at all?
Cal Baptist is away. You're right. It is away. Oh my God.
At Cal Baptist at Riverside, California on February 9th, and then turn around 2 days later and wrestle at Ames in Hilton Coliseum.
I think that is a factor.
That's less than 20 or 48 hours. That's 8 p.m. on a Friday, 1 p.m. on a Sunday now.
Right. Throw in, I mean, jet lag both ways. I don't know. Geez, I think that is a factor. I thought it was at home, the Cal Baptist. Oh my gosh. Yeah, so I think that could weigh on UNI. So for sure.
Um, just kind of looking at the series here. Um, since December 2006, Iowa State has a 14-4 advantage. UNI just 1-6 at Hilton Coliseum. During that stretch, Iowa State won last year, last February, 19-12. So right now, Iowa State's ranked fourth, behind Penn State, Okie State, and Iowa. I still think this will be a fun duel, but certainly Iowa State the favorite coming in.
Right. I think UNI could. There's some close matches, or at least in terms of rankings, some close matches on paper. The UNI is favored in a couple, I would guess, but I think probably you could see UNI maybe winning 4 or 5 matches in this duel and being right in it. So, um, you will see. I mean, obviously they're not going to be favored with Carr or Bastida.
Right.
Probably a couple of 2 or 3 others, but UNI I think would be favored. I mean, I think both could probably be favored at 97. I think obviously Kekaisen will be favored. Happel will be favored, and throw Downey in there, and maybe the 25-pound matches at toss-up matches. So it could be a pretty fun duel.
Yeah, looking. I think Terrakina for Iowa State. I think he's a favorite there. 33, even though Frost is the favorite, I'm telling you, I think Farber. I wouldn't be surprised if there's an upset there, or Farber battles really close with him. It depends on who wrestles for Iowa State at 41. Echemendia did not wrestle in the West Virginia duel. Sam Rabowski did. Even if Echemendia is in there, Happel. Uh, I think it's a toss up with Happel being a slight favorite. 49 Swiderski, 157. The way that Downey's wrestled, I think that's a toss up with Chittum. Like you mentioned, Carr, a favorite there. 74, I think Gatan would be favored, like UNI in the next two, and then Bastida. So, really, that's kind of for the most part of the duel, that's a back and forth affair. Um, you know, you get one extra win out of that, or some bonus points here or there. that's pretty big.
Right, and I would say when you were calling it, I would say Iowa State favored in 3 matches that could swing the other way. So
Yep.
you're exactly right. Yep.
I agree. That should be fun. The only thing I do question is why is it scheduled on Super Bowl Sunday?
Yeah.
Even though they moved it up, um, to try to avoid the conflict, it's still Super Bowl Sunday. I think a lot of people understand that, there are fans, there are people that have Super Bowl parties that start at 11 a.m. Um, you know, so you're risking not having a good turnout because of that. And of course, I don't know how the Big 12 does it. I just know the Big 10, the conference office does the conference scheduling. So schools are at uh, are at their discretion. So they don't have a say in it. Maybe Iowa State and UNI don't either. Given the kind of the wonky weekend, especially for UNI.
Right. I was going to say they can't bump it up much more because UNI's traveling, and I don't know. I don't know how they'll travel if it's commercially or whatever, but I guess they would fly into Ames straight from California, and
I would think, and stay overnight.
right, so that would help a bit. But you got to hold your weight down, and you got to, I mean, don't forget these guys are students as well. They're missing
Right. Yeah.
Anyway, yeah.
Go ahead.
That's a tough weekend to be able to. I mean, I don't know that you can't have it after the Super Bowl. Heck, the Super Bowl lasts from 11 a.m. till
right. It'll be late at night when it's finally when it usually gets over anyway.
Yeah.
So let's unless you have any other comments about Iowa State, UNI, let's take a look at some of the other happenings. I know D3 had a big American Rivers Conference duel with Wartburg and Co. Top 5 matchup there between those two schools, but boy, ended up pretty much a one-sided affair.
Yeah, I watched that one, and it was one team out there wrestling and one team out there not wrestling, basically. What I understand is after the meet, Co had an extra workout over in the track. So
somebody was not real happy, huh?
I don't think so. Nope. So 40-3, I don't know how they could be. And even in that 3, I talked to Will the next day, and he wasn't happy. He kind of hung on and kind of to win that match. I think it was 6-5 or something, but he was ahead considerably.
9-6 actually.
10-6, yeah. So anyway, he was ahead and was he wasn't happy with his finish either. So anyway, they're off to Cornell for the big Bremner Cup. Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep. Baron Bremner Cup.
Yep.
Of course, that's for the wrestling coach AD that served at both institutions. So kind of the one, maybe the only thing that Co and Cornell share together with good feelings and stuff. But yeah,
that KJ and the first basket that scored in a basketball game, men's basketball. Do they still do that with the toilet paper?
The toilet paper. I don't know if they still. I'm assuming they do. I haven't seen it for a long time. But I assume that they still do throwing the toilet paper out on the first basket.
I think each team have to take the home team have to take a technical or something like that.
I think so. Yeah,
but that's kind of a neat tradition if they still do it. If not, I understand.
So Wartburg has won 39 straight against Co, which boy, that's kind of hard to imagine, but that's how long the streak is. and Wartburg leads the series 52-6 all time. The interesting thing is the conference dual title still up in the air right now.
No.
Because Co with the loss, Co is at 6-1. Wartburg is at 7-0. Loris, however, is also 6-1. Its one loss has come to Co. So Wartburg wrestles at Loris Friday. If Loris were to pull the upset, which I think is highly unlikely, it would cause a three-way tie at 6-1 in the American Rivers Conference and stuff. So Co still able to get a share of the title if things work out that way. But I I think it's a safe bet that the win against Co pretty much all but secured uh, the Knights conference championship.
Oh yeah, they're heads and above everyone else in the conference, and they probably have that same record against a whole lot of teams in the conference.
Yes, yeah, right,
Against Cove, yeah.
yeah.
Kind of a doozy up in Dubuque for the the key. What do they call it? The key lock or
Key City rivalry.
Key City rival. There we go. Between Loris and the UD, Loris ended up winning that 22-20, and had 7 bonus points in 4 matches, which was the difference in the meet. So Loris pulled that one out, and like we said, Dubuque's a much improved team, so that's a nice showing. But I know they're not happy with the loss at all. There, I'm sure they wanted to win. So, like you said, Loris Russell's Wartburg next, which is usually a kind of the had been for quite a number of years for the conference championship. It kind of still is, but it's not.
Right. Yep. Loris is the only team in the last 30 years to win a conference duel against Wartburg.
Right. I think the one prior to that was Buena Vista, wasn't it?
What school?
Yeah. Look at that cup there. VV, is that? That's awesome. Classic.
Yeah. So just a coincidence there. However, BV wins over Wartburg are not coming anytime soon. But back in February of 93, 94, February of 94 is when Wartburg or BV beat Wartburg in Storm Lake. And then Wartburg went on its run until Loris snapped it a handful of years ago. But it's been Wartburg ever since. So,
yeah. Oh, yeah.
Go ahead.
Luther also beat Central 21-7, and they were won 6 matches to 4, and they'll wrestle BV next on Thursday. So,
want to mention Upper Iowa with a win this weekend as well. They defeated Minnesota State 24-13. A senior day up at Dorman Gymnasium, I believe. But the thing that kind of interests me here is that this is a non-conference duel now. Yeah. Upper Iowa has moved to the Great Lakes Valley Conference, not in the Northern Sun anymore. Of course, these two had some battles in the Northern Sun seasons in the past, and of course they kept that rivalry together for this. But Upper Iowa wins 24-13. They got a pin from Trayton Ackerman at 125. James Davis followed with a major decision. And Tate Murdy also with a win. Eric Fought and Chase Lensman with back-to-back majors at 57 and 65. And then Coulter by the prep from Crestwood with a decision to pretty much seal things there. So I think a solid win from Upper Iowa.
Right. Mankato State used to be in the Midwest Conference way back 70s when UNI was still in that conference in
Oh
North.
wow, I never knew that.
Yeah, and so we got to go up and wrestle there, and their coach was a guy named Rummy Macius, and yeah. So anyway, we had some fun battles there. UNI always would win, it seemed like, but they were a great team back then. Mankato State was, and anyway, so there was some fun things going on there. They're 7-4 on the season now, so they're having a good season. Upper Iowa is, and their next competition is McKendree University, and wasn't sure where McKendree was. Can you tell me where that is?
Well, I know it's in Illinois.
Yep, you're right.
Lebanon,
Illinois.
Lebanon, Illinois. Yep.
So they're ranked 9th as a tournament team and 16th as a dual team. So they're 6-4 in duals, which tells me they've got some pretty darn good individuals, but they're not very balanced to be 9 and 16. So
could depend on those matchups and bonus points there.
Exactly. Yep.
So if you can rack up a pin against one of those weaker weights, that'll help your chances. And it could be how much you don't give up sometimes. We saw that at the state duels
Right.
this last weekend, that with duels, avoiding bonus points or limiting bonus points can be just as crucial as getting them.
Right.
Especially here if you've got to line up with some holes. Get them while you can if you're the opposition.
Absolutely. And you have to, as a coach, you kind of have to discuss that behind the scenes, maybe in the office, or with the wrestler that has that weaker weight. You need to get bonus points or something. You can't really come out and say that out in the wrestling room, because the guy you're not saying it to is going to be going, "What about me, coach?"
Yeah.
You're just fine, buddy. You're off your back. So
yep.
You kind of have to do that with discretion, but you certainly do have those. I think you have those conversations, at least at the college level, for sure.
For sure. Anything else from the college scene that kind of stands out to you, or you want to touch on?
Just briefly, at the Grandview Open, the women's wrestling, Iowa did have 2 champs, Felicity Taylor and Bellamere, at 116 and 155. They had two other place winners. J.C. Fuller at 191 was second, and Lily Luft was third at 136. 2 other Iowa champs at that tournament. Grandview's Crystal Warner was first at 143, and Indian Hills Community College. Let's see. Elena Bomarito was first at 235. Sorry about that. I can't read my own writing. So anyway, it was nice to see those other Iowa champs there.
Mm-hmm. For sure. We'll keep an eye on that, because I know the regionals are coming up here pretty soon. And of course, the national championships, the NCWWC, I think NCWWC tournament here in Cedar Rapids at early in March. So we're getting closer and closer to postseason for college women's wrestling.
I'm glad you remembered the NCWWC, whatever it is.
I think
there's so many of them out there anymore.
I know, and I get the letters mixed up sometimes. I'll be 100% honest about that. NCWWC, just to confirm. Yep. Well, this is a good a time as any to tee it up, and let's hear what you have with teeing it up with Briggs.
All right, teeing it up. Remember, this is a rant or a rave or both or whatever. So today it's certainly not a rant. It's just this: the state of wrestling participation in Iowa. That's my the theme today. So I believe that at all levels of wrestling, both high school, boys high school, girls high school, men's college, women's college, It's at its highest participation ever. As we know, the girls' high school wrestling has skyrocketed the last couple of years, and it's going to continue to do that. As those young programs build and the coaches are out there recruiting, and even at the youth level, it's just going to get bigger and bigger. With the number of states that continue to sanction the high school girls wrestling increasing, we're going to see the number raise in college as well. I'd love to see it. We're seeing it at the D3 and the NAIA level and junior college level, but not yet at that D1 level. So let's hope that some other schools, a lot of other schools will jump on board and join the University of Iowa. Flow Wrestling recently reported that participation in high school wrestling nationwide during the 2022-23 season topped 300,000. This is combined boys and girls now, for the first time in 46 years. That's since 1978. So the numbers were 305,593 to be exact, and 256,466 of that was boys, and just under 50,000 was girls. So we're certainly holding our own in Iowa, and particularly in Eastern Iowa. So our numbers seem to be good. Even on the teams that aren't having a lot of success, we're not seeing as many forfeits along the way. KJ, I don't know if you've noticed that. Within the three state universities, or with the three state universities ranked in the top 20, two of them in the top 5, at least last week. And Iowa certainly is holding its own at the D1 level on the national level. And then you throw in the D2 schools, Upper Iowa, we talked about them, ranked 15th. One time this year, we had 5 D3 schools ranked in the top 25. And then, of course, Grandview, their success at NAIA. Wrestling's flexing its muscles at all levels in Iowa. So bravo. I'm going to end it with this. Now let's hope that the NIL and the transfer portal doesn't eradicate the sport as well as some other sports, because I'm worried about that. So that's good news. We're looking good.
How do you think the transfer portal and NIL will negatively affect the sport?
Well, I think not just wrestling, but all sports. I think what you're going to see is schools like UNI, that mid-major, pick a sport, they're going to get picked apart. They're going to, the coaches are going to recruit high school kids at the big D1 levels. Unless you're just this superior athlete, you're probably not going to get the NIL deal because of the transport portal. Coaches are going to go out and pick it from other programs and fill their team that way. So the graduating seniors are going to get gypped a little bit, and those mid-major schools are going to get people plucked. And it's not that they're going to go out and actively recruit. Those kids on those programs are going to go out and put themselves in the position to be contacted with that portal. So at least I hope not actively. Otherwise, that's illegal and very shady. And I hope it doesn't come to that.
Yeah, this is going to get me in trouble with people, I think. So I've got to word this carefully. I don't know. I'm a big structure person. I understand student athletes' rights and what makes them happy and stuff like that. I also think the transfer portal is an example in not so much NIL, because you should be able to profit off your name, image, and likeness. I think some of the rules before were silly, not necessarily maybe packages or ways to receive funds, but like going out to a camp. Like before, they couldn't use your face on their camp brochure, and get a certain amount of money with your face on. You should be able to do that. Okay, that's not what I'm saying with this. As far as the transfer portal, I understand athletes' rights and their ability to find a place that makes them happy, and you're holding a 17, sometimes even a 16, 17-year-old to commitment and signing when 3 years later things are totally different. But the transfer portal is almost the example of the inmates running the asylum, where now the authority coaches have, they don't have because he's going to leave. You don't like it, he'll find someplace. At least that's what the theory is. He'll you don't do what I want, I'll hit the bricks and go somewhere that'll give me a little scratch, and I can train and do as I please, and they'll take my results over not having me, compared to you trying to get me to do something I don't want to do. I think it kind of holds coaches hostage a little bit. I don't know, maybe it is a good thing because coaches have to adapt and adjust things, but I also think it teaches people, you don't like something, instead of making it better, you take off and leave, and run away from the situation instead of trying to work and improve and get over it. I think those are two aspects of the portal that I really, really don't like, and you've already seen it. And I also, whenever I think of the transfer portal, I think of Gino Auriemma. As a Notre Dame fan, not my favorite guy because he always used to beat Muffet McGraw and her teams, but he always talked about how many people hitting the transfer portal, and they're always looking for something better, or the greener grass. And he's like, there's thousands of athletes in the portal. There aren't that many spots that are open for those athletes. So they're chasing something that's not really there. Now, when you have All Americans like Jared Franick and Michael Caliendo, and you have an All American like Will Feldkamp, there are going to be doors open for you. But there are going to be a lot of other guys that hit the portal looking for something better, and they're not going to find it. And I think that's one of the ramifications, or the negative influences that the portal, like you mentioned, could really be a detriment to the sport.
So I really feel like the NCAA was trying to protect the whole business of college athletics by not necessarily promoting that NIL and the transfer portal. They kind of got forced into it. But, if you look, I kind of go back and we have a model. It's, professional athletics. I kind of go back to like George Steinbrenner when he first started, that. And all of a sudden with I don't remember the details with Steinbrenner, but and the Yankees, but that's kind of, in my mind, the start of it. And then the wages for those professional athletes just is through the roof. I mean, is there really an athlete that's worth $160 million? I think, wasn't that one of the last big contracts or something like that? But anyway, over 100 million, at least multiple times for sure. And now it's trickling down into college athletics. And honestly, I think we're going to lose college athletics because there's some schools that cannot compete with that. And I'm worried. So I hope I'm worried for nothing, but it's scary.
Well, let's discuss high school wrestling now. The girls' season has concluded with the second annual Iowa Girls High School Athletic Union State Championships last Thursday and Friday at Extreme Arena in Coralville. Exciting event there. Sold out the opening session again. Had over 3,600 fans in attendance for the finals on Friday night. You know, had a new team champion. You know, since the inception of these tournaments going back to the IWCOA events, Waverly Shell Rock has won every team title, including last year's inaugural sanctioned tournament. And this year, Decorah comes away with a team championship. A couple finalists, the champ and Naomi Simon, who won her second Iowa Girls High School Athletic Union title and became a four-time champ when adding in the Iowa Wrestling Coaches and Officials Association uh, state tournament championships her first 2 years. So that was an exciting feat um, for her and girls wrestling as a whole. But just overall, a fun tournament that at one time uh, became maybe even more unpredictable than uh, the boys tournament um, in Des Moines has been.
Well, in what respect?
Well, just some of the upsets.
Oh, yeah.
One of the things uh, I've always said about Des Moines was that the one predictable thing is that the unpredictable will happen. You know, you'll have guys come out of nowhere and get wins or go on a run. Um, you'd see that a lot more with the random draw compared to kind of the seeded brackets that you have now, where you get somebody on one side of the bracket and uh, have matchups and be wrestling Saturday night that you didn't really think, or you get a first round upset, um, or what have you. But here, there was like at the girls tournament this year, there was a stretch where like three defending state champs lost. One of them was a medical forfeit, but it was like, three number one seeded wrestlers lost in consecutive uh matches. It was crazy at one point. Um to me, I would expect maybe 75% of the top seeds to be maybe even more, 85%, and it was just a little over 50% of the number one seeds that wrestled in the finals. So
Yeah.
I think that's what I meant by kind of the unpredictability has risen now, and I think that's a testament to uh, better wrestling as a whole from 1 through 32.
Right. And if you're, I think a result of that is because with the girls, they're still kind of in their infancy or maybe their adolescent era. And that is, they're you've got good quality wrestlers wrestling each other, but they're still making mistakes. And you get that in the boys, but not to that extent, I don't think yet. You're pretty balanced across the board with the boys. With the girls, you can still have an undefeated wrestler get turned over on the back and pinned, and that's that. And you see that. I got to officiate quite a number of women's wrestling or girls wrestling as well as boys. So, and I'm still seeing that on the girls side. There's still that gap in even with your quality wrestlers, they can get, like I said, get turned and beat. So I'm surprised but not surprised with that. And I wasn't sure if you were speaking individually or team wise, which I guess
Oh,
team. So yeah.
yeah. And here's the stretch that I was kind of referring to on Thursday night. You had Molly Sack of Sioux City North, who was a returning state finalist. She was the number one seed at 115. Um, in the semifinals last year, she won by technical fall over Sylvia Garcia Vasquez from West Liberty. Garcia Vasquez wrestled her in the quarterfinals. It was number 1 seed versus number 9, I believe. And Vasquez was up 14-10 when she pinned Sack in the third period. And of course, Garcia Vasquez went on to reach the 115 final, lost to Rihanna Utterbach in the championship match. But you had that win from Garcia Vasquez over Sack. And then that was followed by April Hauser of Cedar Falls, the number 9 seed as well. She pinned Abigail Meyer, who was original champion in Cedar Rapids. But Hauser was winning 4-0 in the second and pinned Meyer to move on to the semifinals. And number 4 seed Camille Schutt from Waverly Shell Rock ended up making the finals and winning the 120-pound title over the 3 seed Smith from the 14 seed Leah Chandler from Sheridan in that one. So you also had Addison Musser of Anamosa winning by a medical forfeit over Mackenzie Childers in that quarterfinal round as well at 130. She made the finals, lost to number 10 seed Kobe Tenborg from Seidel. So you have a 14 seed and a 10 seed winning. And of course, Tenborg, I tell you what, was really impressive. She went through the number 7, the number 2, the number 3. And the top 3 seeds at this weight class were pretty phenomenal. And Trenborg went all the way through, won by major decision in the finals. Was really, really impressive. The note that I'll mention about Mackenzie Childers, unfortunately, during her second round match, she suffered what they believed was a concussion. Went back to the hotel, got sick, and if anybody that's had concussions before, that once vomiting happens, that's a telltale sign. You have a concussion, and it's not it's not a light thing. Even though there aren't grades of concussions, a concussion is a concussion, but that it's pretty serious. She thought she was feeling better, came back, tried to drill and warm up, and start realizing things weren't right, and they had the medical forfeit. So unfortunate end for Childress, who was putting together another great season. She'll be back next year looking for her second title as well. But that was just part of that streak that Thursday night, some crazy things happened. And that's what I think makes wrestling so fun.
And
To
KJ,
have that, and you're starting to see that more with the girls.
Right. And that's at 126, right? So you had Musser,
130.
or am I right with it? Musser from Anamosa, Peterson from Bettendorf. Am I saying that, thinking that right? And then Childress from Prairie.
Yes. Yep.
In the top half of that bracket.
Yep.
So all 3 of those, of course, were at the Anamosa Invitational, and
oh wow,
Childress beat Peterson. If I remember right, it was a major, pretty handily. Might have been a major or worse, tech fall. And then Musser was 3rd. So Musser then beat Peterson in the semifinals then, right?
Yep. So had a first period fall. It was tied 2-2. Peterson got the opening takedown, Musser with a reversal and put her on her back. Got the fall in 128.
Right. And I'll just finish with this. In terms of Kinsey Childers, there's no match that's ever worth that. the health of a child or an athlete if you're a coach. And so they absolutely made the right decision. And it's as hard of a pill as that is to swallow. And particularly that day when you're watching people that you beat move on and advance, that's difficult, but that's the right call. I mean, that's a no
Yep.
brainer. You have to do that.
Yep. And Zach Pacheco, that's one of the things. You know, I remember covering Zach Pachichka as a wrestler at Prairie. Have really loved seeing how he's grown and has become a, a very good coach. And talking to just kind of grabbing him after one of the matches and said, "Hey, what happened?" and kind of explain the situation. And he said exactly what you said. That we got to maybe she could have gone, but you know what? No, and it's not worth it. She'll be back. There's other things in the future to look forward to here. You got to make the smart choice, and she had a medical forfeit. So, um, hats off to Zach Pachichka. Um, he's, I think he's really turned into a top notch coach there, and has done it at Solon and now at his alma mater, Prairie, and uh, I'm really impressed by that. And he echoed exactly what you said.
I agree that he's done a great job and he's really taken the reins and steered that program. And he obviously had a superstar in Childers, but um, but they've done a nice job, Coach and Kinsey, of recruiting the numbers into that program. Because if I remember right, 2 or 3 years ago, there was one or two girls on that team, and now there's 30. If I think that's what when we covered them, what they had, somewhere close to that. And so well done. Yeah, absolutely.
Right. Um, just kind of looking at uh, some of the other efforts from our area. Libby Dix, um, she provided one of those uh, so-called upsets at 190. She had a big pin in the semifinals over Bella Porcelli um, of Southeast Polk, the number one seed, 49 uh, and 2. And Dick's a finalist last year, lost to the Naomi Simon in the 170 finals a year ago. Dick's gets a big pin there, and then a pin in the finals. And I cannot think of another instance where a wrestler pretty much reversed somebody to their back in the final two matches in the semis and the finals to come away with pins and a state title like that. I mean, that was something she said she worked on her wrestling in the bottom position. That was one of her focuses, and man, to get reversals and pins like she did in the finals and uh, semifinals against the top two seeds, that was pretty impressive.
Right. If I recall, she was down quite a bit late in the match and hit a roll to reversal and pin for the win. I think that was the
I
semifinals against
think she
Southeast
was
Polk.
semifinal. She was down 3-0 in the
3-0.
third,
Okay, I
and
thought it
getting
was
ready. Yep,
okay. Yeah,
yep,
good. That's neat. Good for Libby and her family and that wrestling community out in Mount Vernon. That's cool.
yep. Um, and then a couple finalists. Brianna Peach, a runner-up at 235. She fell in the finals to Olivia Huckfelt, a two-time champ who finished off an unbeaten season. Huckfelt uh, has been dominant pretty much her whole career. I think she's going to Iowa um, as well, but she pinned her way through the bracket that I think had uh, the top three seeds were really, really strong with her, Peach, and Ella Brown. Peach with a fall over Brown in the semis. All three were on. I think they had like 107 combined wins coming into the tournament. So they were really impressive, and Huck Felt beats Peach there in the finals as well. And then Decora's runner up, Chloe Sheffield at 100. Um, she was the number 6 seed. Uh, had a major decision to open things out, and then had 3 pins to get to the finals, where she lost to Katie Biscaglia 5-1 in the championship. Got a kick out of talking to her. She talked about how she's one of 7 kids, so she's got 6 siblings. She's the second oldest. So she talked about how her and her siblings always wrestled and kind of roughhoused and rolled around. She was like, "Well, if I do this all the time anyway, why don't I compete and do it for a reason?" And that's how she became a wrestler. And now she's a state finalist, a state runner up. Pretty cool. She even so after she won her semifinal match, I think Naomi Simon ended up carrying her to the field house where where they warm up and everything. Um, and we kind of asked about their friendship, and she goes, it's funny because I was like super intimidated by her when it came out. I was afraid of her. She was a state champ, and she was like, we've become best friends through wrestling, and I thought that was a pretty cool uh, side note to her coming out and being successful. Um, hadn't really been a wrestling person before she decided to give it a try, and it's not only come with success, but also some relationships along the way, which I think is a perfect. Um, it's just perfect turnout.
Right. And that's not a new phenomenon, but it's kind of new for
Right.
the girls because the girls haven't been wrestling probably through their youth, like maybe a brother situation where they might have been doing some youth wrestling along the way.
Right.
So, families, we see that all the time. So, brothers and, dads and, now their sons and daughters are wrestling. And like when like I was thinking Halser, we mentioned Halser from Cedar
Oh
Falls,
yeah.
and I've heard. I assume it's their dad, Greg Halser,
Greg Halter. Yep.
was
The
a
assistant for the team too.
yeah. So there you go, that family connection. But that's a cool story for sure.
You got to give a shout out to East Buck too. They finished second in the team race, or tied for second with Raccoon River Northwest, with 96 uh, points. They did not have a finalist, so that tells you um, a little bit about their depth and what they were able to do as a team as a whole. To finish tied for second, um, and um, you're finishing ahead of Waverly Shell Rock and much larger schools. Um, remember they're usually 1A or A in most sports. So for them to finish second or tied for second, um, and do that without like a major point scorer, like some of these other teams had, that tells you the balance and the depth that they have, and uh, the good numbers. Just kind of looking at what they were able to do here. They had 4 place winners. Um, Brooklyn Graham was third at 190. Um, she finished off with a win over Porcelli, the top seed from Southeast Polk, um, to get third. You had Allison Crum at 235 that finished fourth. She had a big win over Ella Brown on the backside, um, in the Conci semis. And then you had Taylor Stifle, um, who got fourth at 145. She reached the semifinals, and then lost to Anastasia Simon from Decorah, in the placing match. But um, a good tournament for her as well. And then Adeline Kabalka was seventh at 140. Um, and I think just about even the girls that didn't place won at least one match, and two others won two. So, um, that tells you the team um, strength there with East Buck and what they were able to accomplish.
Right. And KJ, did you get a hotel room or anything down there? I'm kidding because it's so close, a short drive, but you're down there for 3 days in a row, right?
Right.
So,
We just we had an air mattress that we blew up and put under the media table, so we could write our stories, catch a nap, and then be there ready to go for the next day.
Right. Thursday, Friday, the girls, and then Saturday for the boys state duels. How was that?
The state duels, well, I tell you, um, you know, I think 3A kind of went as maybe expected, right? Other than that, you had some upsets. 2A was probably the most uh, unpredictable. That I think Clint Kudum said it best when I talked to him after his semifinal win over Osage, that you could wrestle this next weekend and the placing would come out different. You could wrestle it the weekend after that and it would be something else different as well. Um, you had multiple duels coming down to, they weren't decided until the final bout. It was probably the most competitive 1 through 8 field. Um, I really remember uh, the crowd. The crowd was good. One of the things that I really like with uh, the Extreme Arena is it's all general admission. So you would have uh, a team that wrestled on one side of the arena, and their fans would flock over there and be in the stands. And then there's this almost unwritten um, policy that even if you liked where you were sitting, you would get up and move to follow your team wherever they were wrestling at. And I think that made it for a pretty fun atmosphere because the crowds were into it, and you were right there near your mat, cheering your team on. So kind of like that instead of having assigned tickets and seats, and you might be on one side of the arena for the first round, and then your team's wrestling on the other side, and you're stuck having to yell across a whole nother duel and uh, having to look through what was going on the mat right in front of you. So I really like that, and I think it's a great venue for the state duels as well as uh, the girls tournament. And I think it really becomes a wrestling festival. I described that a few times in things I've written and talked to people, but it really has become a 3-day wrestling festival down there for high school wrestling, and I think it's pretty cool um, from top to bottom.
Would you say that the arena was sold out? Did you see
For state duels,
yeah, for both, for the girls and for the state duels?
So the first session for the girls tournament was sold out. Um, I think for the finals on Friday night, they had about 3,600, probably about 12 or 1,300 short of a sellout. So there's still room to grow. The middle two sessions of the girls tournament were not sold out. I don't know what the attendance numbers for the state duels, but I don't believe those were sold out.
Okay.
So
That was my question. Is it ready for a new arena, or it sounds like there's still room for growth?
I don't think so. I think there's still um I think there's still a little time before, you know, there's still probably about 1,300 to 1,400 people, 1,500 people maybe in those middle sessions that still, aren't there for the girls. So the arena still, that first session is packed.
Right.
And you see that with everything. But if the other sessions catch up to that, then you're probably looking at hosts maybe inquiring about Carver Hawkeye Arena as a place to.
Okay.
So,
yep. I wondered about that. I was down there last year, and I wondered what the difference was this year, and wasn't able to get there this year. But it's growing. That's good.
yes, yeah, for sure.
I agree with you on 2A being crazy. Close meets, and you're right. Could have wrestled again of different results each time, but pretty exciting.
I'm telling you, it was crazy. I mean that. I mean, the minute you thought, oh, hey, this team's going on a run, and it was going to go down as maybe you would think on paper, something would change, and it would swing back towards the other team, and it was pretty amazing to kind of watch, really all 8 teams, um, you know, compete.
Mm-hmm. Well,
Because I don't think any of the teams finished. No, I take that back. There's one team. One team finished where they were seated out of 8 teams. That was Independence. They were seated sixth and they placed sixth. Osage was 1 and they got third. Mount Vernon was 2, they got fourth. Preston was 3, they got first. West Delaware was 4th and they got 7th. Sergeant Bluff Luton was 5th and they got 2nd. I mentioned Independence. Algona was 7th and they finished 8th. And then Humboldt was 8th and they finished 5th.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And I think that's wild.
And Indianola lost that 5th and 6th place meet by 31-30, like you said, close. But Independence is, if you remember the very first podcast we had, who's the team the team that I pulled that could move up into the top eight was Independence. Mm-hmm. They weren't even in the top 10, maybe even 15 at that time. So way to go to Independence and the Mustangs. So
yep. And
actually both Mustangs, Mount Vernon as well in 2A.
Yep. Yeah, so Creston they came away with a 36-33 win in the finals over Sergeant Bluff Luton. That wasn't decided until the final match. Creston with a decision at 190, I believe the final weight there, to win. And of course, Sergeant Bluff Luton, they made the finals for the first time in school history. They went down to the final match. Their last 2 matches against Osage in the semifinals, they bumped wrestlers up. Bo Kudum moved from 157 to 165 and got a fall. And then Xavier Ellington beat Max Gast in a battle of ranked wrestlers 3-0 at 175, both moving up from 165. So Sergeant Bluff Luton was able to finish off the 36-33 win. You could see the excitement. They huddled up. They're cheering and jumping up and down. Then they ran over to the wall, the arena wall between the floor and the stands. They're celebrating with some fans. Ellington said kind of saw how it was playing out, knew it was going to come down to come down on his shoulders, saw what Bo Kudum was able to do and realized he had to go out and perform, wanted to do it for his team and everybody with Sergeant Bluff Luton, and he was able to come through there. And talking to Clint Kudum after that win, this is a program kind of wrestling against some blue bloods, right? West Delaware's been in the mix for long over a decade with multiple state titles. Osage has been, you know, the history there and the tradition with Osage is outstanding. Uh, here you've got Sergeant Bluff Luton that first they were seventh, and then they were sixth. Then they were five, and then the last few years they went three, or 4-3-2 now, and they just slowly climbed up that ladder. And I think he's got some good things going on uh, there at Sergeant Bluff Luton, and certainly, um, something to continue to build off of. And he mentioned that the wrestlers on his team right now, uh, they really did not want to drop the baton. He mentioned how they continue to improve, and they lost some guys to graduation last year, and they were really focused on being able to carry the torch, as he said. So they did a fine job getting second there to Creston, who I think won its first title since uh, maybe 2009. So Creston has gone um, a little time since winning that championship, but has come back and was impressive this weekend, especially in their win over Mount Vernon. Boy, they looked phenomenal. Mount Vernon, we've talked about Mount Vernon many times, and how much we really like their lineup and their team. And Creston really racked up some bonus points and got some big wins and won 44-24 to get to the finals.
Right. And then Osage also handled Mount Vernon a little more than I thought they might as well, 44-28 for third and fourth. But you never know what, with third and fourth, where kids' minds are. And, even if they have their starting lineup, I'm sure they did, but, some schools may not. They might throw in some reserves to give them a chance to wrestle in the state duels. So,
right.
Yep.
Just looking at 3A really quick, Southeast Polk, they rolled to their first title since 2020. They beat Bettendorf 48-16 in the finals. That was after kind of thumping Waverly Shell Rock 54-24 and Fort Dodge 53-18. So dominant performance from the Rams. There, I know the two of us, we went back and forth. We were split on that semifinal between Bettendorf and Indianola, and Bettendorf won 31-30.
Yeah. And then Fort Dodge beat Indianola 30-29. So really close matches there. But Southeast Polk, man, they beat Waverly, Shell Rock, Fort Dodge, and Bettendorf. That's three pretty decent wins. So speaking of blue bloods, Hempstead finished seventh, right? Finished seventh, beat Waverly Shell Rock for seventh and eighth, 42-37.
Correct. So an Ankeny Centennial there got fifth over Waukee Northwest as well. In Class 1A, boy, I tell you, Don Bosco had a great tournament. Real fun and competitive, energetic final between Don Bosco and Alburnett, number 3 and number 1 going at it. It's Don Bosco who started as number 3 seed, came away with their 14th title overall, 4th straight dual title. Don's win 45-31, and a lot of that had to do with the finish, the closing there. That duel was back and forth through the first 10 weight classes, but in the upper weights, Don Bosco took over, finished with 4 straight wins. Pins from Kyler Kanak and Andrew Kimball at 57 and 65. Decision from Caden Kanak at 175. And then Landon Fernandez with a fall at 190 to cap things. 45-31 over Albernet. So just this Don Bosco team a lot better than they were earlier in the year. I think they were missing some teams, and they did outstanding with a win over Jessup to start, and then beating Wilton, and then finishing things off with big win over Albernet.
Right, and they were sizable wins. The win over Wilton, who we've been talking about all year, 45-20, and then over Albernet, 45-31, like you said. And this was another bracket that was kind of topsy-turvy. Yeah, Jessup, who we've mentioned as their first ever wrestling in the state duels, they were seeded 7th, finished 5th. They hit in 45-27 in Wapsie Valley by the same score. And then Wapsie Valley was seeded 8th and finished 6th. So both of them wrestled above their seeds. Kind of neat to see that as well. So.
And the one thing about Jessup too, so the seniors in this Jessup group, which made its first state duels appearance, talking to Matt Gross, the coach, after that consolation win, I believe it was over Hinton, maybe. Look here. Right. Yeah, their consolation win over Hinton. Talked to him for a moment, and he mentioned these seniors, like when they're in 8th grade or freshmen, they were like 2-14 or 1-15, something like that. 1 or 2 wins, double-digit losses, and now look where they're at. Believe they set a school record with 22 dual wins this year. They finished 5th in their first state duels appearance. Beat Lisbon, one of those perennial powers in the regional duels to get here. Hosted a regional duel. That tells you a lot about just how much growth this program has had. And he said, we're not going anywhere anytime soon. I think they only graduate a few seniors. They've got a lot of talent coming back. He's like, we've got some youth stuff established, so we're going to have some incoming freshmen that are going to be contributors. So I think this is just kind of a cornerstone for Jessup to kind of build on.
Right. I mean, that's exciting. I think they had, I'm not certain, a young blood on the team as well that may have stayed home and instead of heading over to Don Bosco. So that's impressive in its own right there. So,
and Albernet, that's another team. I think they only have 2 or 3 seniors in their entire lineup. They've got the majority of their big guns coming back. So we're going to see Albernet, Don Bosco, Jessup. We're going to see these teams back at it again, I think, in a similar position next year, too.
I would agree.
One thing with Class 1A, I do want to mention here, the state duels field kind of led to some really interesting individual matchups as well. Couple 1s versus 2s that we had throughout the day. Couple Hayden Schwab, ranked number 1 at 106, faced Aiden Bergman of Jessup, number 2, and Schwab was absolutely dominant. Built might have been a 12-point lead or so before he got a fall in 2 minutes and 54 seconds. And then in the Albernet Nashua Plainfield duel, Um, you had 1 versus 2. You had a state finalist versus a state champ. Uh, you had Jaden Rinkin of Nashville Plainfield, who is a returning state champ, against the finalist and Rowdy Neighbor. Neighbor comes away with a 2-1 victory there that really uh, kind of sparked Alburnett to like 8 straight wins and pull away from Nashville Plainfield in the semifinals for a 47-21 victory there. Um, so with the state duels, you're still getting those individual matchups that you very well could see down in Des Moines on a Friday or even Saturday night. And one thing I'll add too, don't ever call Alburnett wrestlers and their coaching staff soft. I'll just mention that in passing.
I don't believe I ever have, but I certainly won't start now.
It would be good not to. Any other thoughts from state duels? Do you like the timing of this?
Oh yeah, much better. Absolutely.
I absolutely love it. And I'll be honest, I don't miss sectionals. I think I think that time had passed, especially with what we were having for some of the fields and brackets out of those sectionals. I think this is much better for state duels. I like the all district competition for all 3 classes. Um, so I really like the positioning of state duels, and it's a little bit of a quick turnaround having regional duels on a Tuesday, and this on a Saturday. But it's one I think I'd happily accept because I think it just works out so good here at this time of year.
Right. And one residual of the regional duels is that they're allowing teams to pick up a 16th date if they don't make the regional duels. So I worked a meet down in Marengo, Iowa Valley on Monday, and one down at on Tuesday at West Liberty, which Cedar Rapids Kennedy was at in Assumption. So so that you can pick up those extra duels, and because otherwise it's like 2 weeks between your last competition and districts. So that's nice that the teams are allowed to do that. So
break that gap up a little bit.
Right.
And speaking of districts this Saturday, all 3 classes, I believe 10 o'clock start at each site. I'm gonna whip through the 3A or the districts with area teams starting in 3A. We've got Linmar and Marion heading to Ames for the 3A district that has Bondurant, Farrar, Cedar Falls, Denison, Schleswig, West Des Moines, Dowling, and Sioux City East. In there with Linmar, Marion, and the hosts. At Bettendorf, you've got the Bulldogs with Burlington, Clear Creek, Amana, Davenport Central, Davenport West, Fort Madison, City High, and Muscatine. At Dubuque Hempstead, you've got Clinton, Davenport North, the Mustangs, Senior, North Scott, Pleasant Valley, Waverly, Shell Rock, Western Dubuque. There, Cedar Rapids Xavier's heading west to Marshalltown. They'll face they're in a field with Boone, the Bobcats, Mason City, Pella, Southeast Polk, Urbandale, Waterloo East, and Waterloo West. And I will be at Cedar Rapids Prairie. You've Ankeny Centennials coming over, and then you've got Jefferson, Kennedy, Washington, Iowa City Liberty, Iowa City West, Newton, and Prairie. Of course, Prairie MVC champs. Iowa City West, I'm really looking forward to seeing some of the Trojans, especially Alexander Pierce, the defending state champ, Justin Avila, to name a couple there from Iowa City West in the field at Prairie. In Class 2A, just kind of looking at the local hosts. Independence will host the site. with BCLU WSH, Clarion Goldfield Dowels, quite a few hyphens there between some of the schools. Decorah, East Marshall GMG, Hampton Dumont Cal, Owine and Union will be up there. So some really good individual talent up there. Solon has a pretty fun, could be really competitive district with Comanche, Central DeWitt, Columbus Community, Mid Prairie, Mount Vernon, the Spartans, Tipton, and West Liberty. So Mount Vernon certainly the leader there, but I think each of those teams has some good individuals. West Delaware will welcome Benton Community, Center Point Urbana, Macokota, Monticello, New Hampton, Turkey Valley, Northeast, and Wahlert. And then Williamsburg will host Anamosa, Davis County, Eddyville, Blakesburg, Fremont, Grinnell, South Tama, Vinton, Shellsburg, Washington, and Williamsburg. That district really, really intrigues me because you've got some outstanding wrestlers from Anamosa, the Scrantons, Wheeler, to name a couple from Anamosa. Then you got South Tama, where you have, wrestlers like Amari Chavez, Gavin Bridgewater, who's a state finalist, two-time place winner. McCall Bear, I believe, as well. Washington has Aaron Boone and a couple of the Griner kids, I believe. And then you've got Williamsburg with Niall Sin and a few others, Schropp, I believe Lincoln Schropp. And I'm blanking on their heavyweight that came out, suffered a neck injury in football, and then was able to come out for the second half and was a finalist in the Wilmette Conference tournament as well. So I tell you what, Williamsburg might be one of the most competitive districts in this area in 2A. In Class 1A, our area hosts MFL Marmac has Bellevue, Cascade, Elkader Central, Clayton Ridge, East Buck, Jessup, as we mentioned from the duels, Postville, Starmont, and Sumner Fredericksburg. And then not quite in the area, but adjacent, we got Wilton, who has Durant, Highland, Lisbon, Louisa, Muscatine, Macokota Valley, Midland, New London, North Cedar, Waco, Wapello, as well as the Beavers. And then the one I thought was really, really, I don't know, maybe I'm not really good on geography, but I thought this was kind of an odd placing. Alburnett goes to South Hamilton for their district. And that's got AGWSR, Belle Plaine, Waterloo, Columbus, Earlham, HLV, Iowa Valley, North Butler, North Tama, and South Hamilton, the host. So maybe I'm not picturing exactly where South Hamilton is, but I thought that was kind of an odd placement for Alburnett.
Well, I imagine a lot of that is separating the quality, the higher ranked teams, and trying to get them not in the same district and trying to spread that out a little bit. Sure. Now I should mention that 3A has 8 districts and 3 wrestlers from each district qualify. 2A and 1A have 12 districts and 2 wrestlers qualify. So each bracket at state will have 24 wrestlers.
Right. I think that's I don't see that alignment changing anytime soon. Do you like that? I mean, having it split up with 8 and 12?
Well, I don't know how you're going to do it any other way, but
right.
I like 24 wrestlers in the bracket at state rather than 16.
I do.
And 16 was nice, because I remember state when it was 8, and we've grown. It's the sport, like I was talking about the numbers and tee it up. The numbers are at an all-time high right now, probably in the state and definitely in the nation. And so let's reward those kids.
when Don Russell Gable in the finals, how many qualifiers went to the Cattle Congress in Waterloo?
I believe 8. Now
Okay.
that was true when I was a senior too,
Okay.
because they're messing around with it. So when I was a sophomore, junior, and senior, the brackets were totally different.
Okay.
So let's see. No, I'm sorry. My junior, senior, and the year after my senior year, they were different. They were just messing around with it. So like in my year, the year before, I think 12 guys were in the bracket at state, and the year after 12 guys, but my year 8 guys, but that was a 16 team district that lasted for two days.
Oh wow.
It was a mess.
Wow. Yeah, and I even remember one of the things that I'm glad they changed I believe in the mid '80s. I remember when Larry, my older brother, Regis qualified, and uh, back then they had a uh, replicage kind of a reportage, whatever, kind of what the Olympics do, where you're if you lost before the semifinals, you were pulled back in if the wrestler that beat you made the finals. So
Yeah.
you had to, if you got upset first round, you had to sit and wait, hoping that your fate was resting in the hands of the person that beat you, for you to be
Right.
able to come back and wrestle in the consolations. I'm glad they went back to kind of a true or they went to a true consolation, when placing out through 6 back then, and then was it the mid '90s or mid to late '90s they start placing 8 instead of 6.
Right. Double elimination from the replicage, which is, go figure, they do that at the Olympics and at the world level. I'm like, what? So I mean that makes no sense, but that's what they do, I guess. So
Yep. So it's fun to see how the state tournament has evolved and will continue.
like kudos to Louis Curtis and company for really, in some instances, gambling a little bit to make,
Yeah.
but it's definitely better. I think, in the long run.
And of course, that starts from a week from today. We're recording this on Wednesday, February 7th. So a week from today, we'll be in Wells Fargo Arena for the state tournament. Any parting thoughts or anything about the district fields coming up?
No, today's Wednesday. When I was a coach, today was mock district day. So you go through the district as if, not as if you won, because it's easy when you win. You just win, win, win. But it's when you don't win, what's your mindset, and talking through that process. So if you lose second round, you still, back then you had possibly 2 more matches to wrestle, and still you're still eligible to go to state. So but that's when you wrestle back to true second. Now that with 3A, you're wrestling back to, or they're doing taking 3, so it's a little bit different. So, but anyways, mock tournament day.
Cool, cool. All right. Well, we'll go a little earlier in the week next week to get state tournament preview podcast recorded. Um, Again, we appreciate everybody that watches along with us each week. We've heard some really cool feedback from people, and that makes our day, just because we do this for you guys. I mean, obviously, we enjoy doing it and talking wrestling with each other, but we also do it for the people that view in or tune in and view what we do each week. So, thank you guys for watching. Coach Briggs, go
Let's
ahead.
keep wrestling on the move.